All right, how's it going? Doing this recording to answer a couple questions that you guys were throwing into the Discord, because today was obviously, a bit of a strange day with this little bear trap that showed up, and kind of, going through thoughts on how to trade that, and yeah, just wanted to walk you guys through, how to take this, what my immediate thoughts are on it, and seeing where we go. So to give an overview, what we've really been looking at here is, let me change the color of this. We'll go yellow on that, and yeah, the 4 hours a little bit better. All right, so we have yellow there, and we're kind of ignoring this drop at the bottom here. And so we've been really looking at working through, where's my drawing tool? Here we go. So everything we've been watching is kind of just, trading this range. There's a little bit of a pattern that's come in. It's a little bit of a pennant. This was kind of a bear pennant of sorts, but, overall generally just watching this range. And so what everybody was watching for today specifically is that, let's go back down to the 1 hour for this kind of clarity. What everybody's watching for today was this big drop that showed up here that then wicked back up, bounced. And so, everything in the Crypto Rev group was just called as, oh, this is a bear trap, this leads to huge upside, things like that. And so, just trying to give some clarity on what we really do with these. And so, this, in my opinion, is a weak bear trap. And so what I mean by that is that it just, it dropped down, we got to pull back up above support, and we didn't just take off to the races. And so what I mean by that is, let me just show an example of what I would consider a major, a strong bear trap in that sense. And it's this kind of an idea. And so this is a larger time scale, but this entire concept down here is really what was considered a bear trap. And so the bear trap portion of it, you can imagine that, we were kind of watching. I'm going to draw this pretty poorly just to give a quick example, but imagine this is the same support level, huge drop back down. This is a bear flag, which should break downward, but it didn't. It went against the odds. So it went against the odds. And so your bear trap really started, in this case, right here on this breakout. This is where it started. The part that really made it strong was that it came back above this support and kept going. Because essentially there's two scenarios here. This bear trap becomes a bear trap and it hits the support again, and it's just another bear. It's retesting down. And so started here, but you can see how much more powerful this move was immediately. So real quick jump up, battled this support that we had marked here, and then again up, and it just keeps going to the races, just off. And so this is what I'm considering a strong bear trap, but this is a bear trap on, a 1 hour time frame. This pattern doesn't carry over to a 4 hour, but this is several 4 hour candles. So if we go back to what we're working with now, I'm considering this pretty small because, this is not the biggest pattern in the world. It shows up on the 4 hour, but I really wouldn't want, many fewer candles than this. It's also, not a bear trap down to like this support. That would be a pretty crazy bear trap. It's something that dropped under this line, chops around, and comes back above it. That would be a pretty big bear trap. And so all that means is that essentially I was watching this. I did trade this bear trap. But with that, I exited already here. It was one of those cases of I wasn't willing to hold it, and, I wasn't willing to try to carry it all the way through and hope it became something on higher time frames. Not what I was interested in. I was more interested in just, locking in those small profits we're always talking about, and not trying to gamble on this whole run up that, wasn't trying to gamble on this move, because it's just so much less likely, and there's things that are in between. And so with that, let me go into, the actual trade that I did, just to help, show what you guys are looking at here. And so I've said it a couple times recently in the group that, I'm really just interested in trading Bitcoin and Ethereum right now. I'm not looking at the alts. So this is something I actually shared in the screen share the other day. I'm not interested in the alts because, through all of this chop that's going on in here, some alts are firing off. Some of them are just getting dragged down the entire time. they're just not as predictable. And so really what I've been doing is just, looking at small Bitcoin patterns. Ethereum tends to follow it pretty perfectly. And so if I wanted something that could move a little bit quicker, I'll trade a little Ethereum, but it's mostly just Bitcoin. And my preference for that is the up and down Bitcoin tokens on Binance or Bolsa DX. And so that's exactly what I trade here. I didn't pick up any alt. I didn't pick up anything but Bitcoin up. That was it. And so let me go over to the Bitcoin up. And obviously this should look super similar. It's, it's the same thing, just a very slight leverage. So this bear trap that we're looking at here, this would have been a, all the way to the top, 6.3%, whereas this up token did 19. And obviously it's a bit, it's a bit exaggerated because we're grabbing wick down, wick top, but you see the idea. And so obviously this is the same, draw the same pattern on here so that everything matches up. This is not quite as nice, but no, it's about the same. All right. And so first thing, what I have is a screenshot from Bolsa DX of, exactly where my entries were, just to show, exactly what I'm talking about. What exactly did I do? It's right here. And let's also go down to a 5-minute chart to make this even bigger. And so 14,587, let's figure out exactly where these are at. These aren't going to be perfect. They're not going to be perfect entries. And 15.62. Well, that's a pretty perfect exit, actually. Nice. Okay. So what I was looking at here, I was actually a little bit late to this party. It was a bunch of notifications going off about the bull trap. I know that I had a couple alarms set on this Bitcoin chart, pretty much where I have them now. Had one set here, had one set here. And as soon as this one gets hit and it breaks below, I usually set another one right on that line, so I know when we get a retest or something of those sorts. But I was a little bit slow to the draw on this, which is why this one is not quite where this support line is. And so essentially what we have to watch out for with the bear traps is this to come down, be a bearish retest, and come down. Let me change the color of this because that's horrible against the other line. We'll just go white. And so essentially this is what we were, fine line between a bear trap and a bearish retest. And so really the only difference that happened here is this candle here essentially. And so that 5-minute essentially closed right up, touched to this top line and just didn't break back low. It just stayed up. And so this is actually probably a better thing to, let me show this on the actual Bitcoin chart. It's going to have better signal to it. It's not the up token. All right. So same thing. It really just comes down to, what makes this a bear trap and not, some kind of just a bearish retest of sorts. And a lot of that came down to, for my entry, if I look at my timing, I remember that this was very close to, I had a 5-minute candle that shot up here, closed on the other side of the support, super strong. But the one thing that really sold me on it is that this is that 5-minute candle. It's not showing the time at the bottom. If you look at the time at the bottom, oh no, it's showing it, okay. If you look at the time at this bottom, it's a 45, which means that not only did that 5-minute candle close above the yellow support I was looking at, a 15-minute candle did the same thing. And if I remember right, I took about probably a minute to kind of, zoom back out, make sure I had everything drawn where it was, make sure that I'm seeing this is exactly what I did, and then this came right back down. And so as soon as it started to come back down, I believe is when I made my entry on that. And so, of course these times are a little bit shifted because it's a different thing I was trading on. But 10:01. So this would have been a little bit delayed. So this drop, essentially my Bitcoin chart is drawn a little bit different because this has the leverage to it, but it's essentially drawn this way. And so, like I said, I was a little bit late to it, that if we look at this chart, essentially where I had jumped in was right on that candle. And so this is it. I mean, this big candle here, closed above, like I said, that carried a 15-minute with it. And so all I did on my next, my next move was wait for this to tap again and confirm it on a lower time frame, which is exactly what happened here. Again, big candle close was right here. Let me get rid of this one. Big candle close was there. Retest comes back down, loops around, and as soon as it starts to go back up, and that's where the entry was. And so I know it's not perfectly clear. These are things you have to be pretty, confident in when you're doing them, but that's exactly what I was doing. I mean, that's exactly the time frames I have here. I mean, this literally shows it. I was in the trade for, 2.5 hours, so I would have entered it. Again, I would have entered this candle right here. I was in it for, oh geez, where is that? Okay, 2.5 hours. Of course, this doesn't have the date on it already. 2.5 hours. Okay. So, I mean, obviously not getting crazy rich here, but this is, I think pretty close to 10%. 10% in 2.5 hours in an otherwise, sour looking market. And so, really, I mean, that's the whole idea behind that entry. Just dropped. Obviously, I could have gotten a better buy here, but like I said, I was late to this draw. This is just me being slow. And so the only other thing that it comes to is essentially, why did this exit come in where it was instead of holding it forever? Pretty much immediately when I had entered this trap, the first thing that I was doing was, one, figuring out where this yellow trend line was coming in. And again, using the 4-hour for that. Mostly because I was going to take profits before that regardless. No matter what, that's kind of the spot I was stopping. Otherwise, what I was doing on the 1 hour is I was charting, so we can kind of split up this pennant where, we have this chop that happens here. We have a big resistance line there. Same things happens here. A lot of chop right in this spot, a lot of chop here. And so that's exactly what I was doing, saying, okay, let me set an alert here, because I'm sure, at the very least, we'll get that bounce to this spot. And so when we hit that, I immediately actually set another alert right where actually my current alert is set. And again, same exact reason. It's just the next, it's the next level that's getting a lot of action to it. It's the next spot that price is going to stop. And so that's what I was doing. I was taking it level by level, and essentially watching small time frame. When an alert would go off, I just go back to the small time frame, and 5 is what I'm talking about. I'm not going down. I wasn't going lower for this particularly. And essentially, let me get rid of these. I was looking at multiple things. Like I said, we pretty much hit this one resistance level here pretty perfect. It actually bounced down a little bit. And I think the only reason I actually held at this point was that I was just like, it seemed like not enough. It's truthfully one of those things of like, things haven't moved a whole lot. It doesn't seem like it was done. RSI still have plenty of room to go. And then it basically had done, in a very short time, 20 minutes or so, it pushed past and went, right to the next level. And so once it had hit this level, I had exited solely for the reason that that this did not, blast off on the scale that we were looking at over here. It's a very slow, steady climb. It wasn't, like I said, it looked like a weaker bear trap just because it wasn't, a 3% candle followed by a little bit of chop and then, just 8% in 12-hour kind of a move. It was just a slow, steady trickle, bounce, trickle, bounce, trickle, bounce, trickle, bounce. And there was also just no pattern for me to trade here. I had nothing to go off of. At this point, I was already 10%, and so I was like, okay, let me lock that in, with the intentions that essentially I'm setting this alert back on this yellow line in case one of many options happens. And so this is essentially the spot that I'm in right now, is that, I exited that position and I haven't done anything with it since. So let me clean this up a little bit. And so that's essentially the spot I'm in now. And my logic was this, is that I had already snagged 10% out of this climb. I had hit two of the resistance levels that I was marking, and really for me to be, if you guys were asking for advice or anybody was, I would say that the right thing to do is I set an alert here, and I should have sold some here, and should have set some up here and, taken profits again, but I didn't do that. And so really what my thoughts were is there's no pattern that shows up here, so you know what, I'm at another resistance level. I'm really close to this one I was going to sell at, I'm really close to this top part where I was telling myself I'm going to take all profits here no matter what. And I was like, you know what, this is close enough. This has been 2 hours. I'm cool with that. My thoughts were that one of a couple things can happen. One is that this runs up, hits that line, and just gets rejected just as it kind of what my dream goal was. It comes up here and hits this top line. I back out, and then whatever happens, happens. I wait for the next pattern. The next option, kind of bounce this line, chatter between here, and just keep chopping something, something boring normal that looks a lot like what happened back here. Third option, which is kind of what I would love to happen, and this is kind of what, I'm kind of waiting on, is I figured that, I had no pattern to chart while this was happening. And so it's, okay, let me back out, I've got some profit, and wait for a pattern to come up. And so what I would have loved to have seen is some kind of like a falling channel, falling wedge come back in here, where this sort of does, a double bottom, build some bullish divergence while coming back in for another retest of this. I would love to see that. If a pattern shows up that should break higher on this yellow trend line at the bottom, I'll absolutely buy in on that again. But I'm going to wait for a pattern to show up. And it looks like we might be getting something here, but I'm not, I'm not too sold on it yet. It might be a pretty shallow thing looking, kind of, something along these lines. But again, it's one of those things of, I had 10%. I was really close to where I wanted to take my profits at anyway. And just said, okay, well, 10% is good enough for me. Let me wait for a pattern to come up. I stole 10% from this market. That's great. And truthfully, that's kind of it. I feel like I'm leaving a lot out, but it's because it's hard for me to know what you guys do or don't know. And so I'll leave it at that. Let me check the Discord quick, see if there are any other questions on this topic before I close this out. Just give me 1 second. Let's see. Okay, so one thing that came up was V-shaped reversals. And I said that I don't classify a bear trap the same as a V-shaped reversal. Because what a V-shaped reversal is to me is, it's a really tough call, but essentially like in a V-shaped reversal, I think only makes any sense in kind of like a bullish motive. Sorry. Okay, so here. Excuse me. Okay, so this would have been a perfect example. Where are we at? Okay, so just for scale here, this was I'm losing my perspective. Okay, yes, great. All right, we'll show this part. So this is, let me mark the bottom just to show kind of like where the dates are that I'm looking at here. Time label, great. So when we do a V-shaped reversal, and so we have our low, a higher high here, higher low. So we're in our uptrend, and so where the V-shaped reversals really come in are on these kind of pullbacks. And so when Bitcoin does a pullback like this, and I'd like to see it more aggressive, actually, this is probably a much better example, that one that I just circled there. So when you get an aggressive pullback like that, Bitcoin's dropping probably, what, I don't know, 6-7%. Okay, so 4% at a time. 4% in 1 hour. And so when Bitcoin does that, a lot of, and by a lot, I mean not that many, but some altcoins will quite literally drop, 30 to 40%. They'll be 25% plus down. Enough so that if you chart this on a small time frame, you're looking at a 5 to 10 or 5 to 15 minute time frame, and your RSI is like down here. And so that's essentially when your V-shaped reversal comes in. You find the altcoins are absolutely destroyed that have, they're larger caps, they're bigger stuff. It's stuff that will bounce. And so you're essentially grabbing a bag of it, and the second this moves up, even when your RSI finally gets back to this white, kind of 20 to 25 mark frame, your altcoin has a good chance of already moving, up 20, but back a good 15-20%. And that the V-shaped reversals tend to be an in and out in a 10-minute thing. They're super risky, and I really don't recommend them to people because it's a really loose strategy. It's a sketchy strategy, to be quite honest with you. It's not something I would consider logical. I'd consider it super risky, and you have to only do that essentially when exchanges are starting to shut down. You start seeing posts about, oh wow, I can't even sell my coins, and that's when you're trying to buy. It's few and far between. I'll try to just go through those when a situation comes up. But like I said, I pretty much avoid it. For now, I will just leave this recording at just this. I feel like it covers the bear trap decently, but always message me and we can go over more details and elaborate on it further. And just again, all right. And so I guess one last thing, what I'm watching for now, I want to see a pattern show up to bounce off the bottom here. If I have a pattern, I'll enter again. If I don't, I won't. And then we're upside. Otherwise, what I want to see is either a break higher of this, and I don't even think I would enter this retest here. I'm really not interested. In terms of big bull trap, this really needs to be like in terms of macro scale. If we're talking like an actual trend reversal kind of bull trap, then what we need to see is this. This is the bull trap that equates to big upside. This top, bang. That's the big upside one. This down here is not. This is short term until it becomes this. And without a pattern, without any kind of pattern, I'm not entering in anywhere in here. Sitting on sidelines until an actual pattern shows up and it's at a spot that I want to enter. Otherwise, just sit on your hands, you're safer.